Welcome, welcome. So please, now that you're here, I'm just going to have you have a seat. So the first thing that we have for you to review and then sign is our consent form.
Done.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so here we have our felts. And typically in the lab, we use felts for usually 5 sessions. But if you find that the felts are worn, so let's take a look at one of the felts. So right now you can see that the felt has very good structural integrity. But what can happen after you've done a few sessions is that the edges can start to fray, the electrode or felt can start to become compressed. And if that's the case, that you have many of these, I would simply toss that felt and use another. So I'm going to go ahead and count out some felts here. We routinely have counting problems. Or occasionally a felt will get away, so I think it's okay to prep an extra felt or two. All right, 16. So I have 16 felts. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my multi-purpose saline solution and I'm just going to cover the felts and allow them to soak. And once your felts are fully submerged, you want to start a timer and you want to make sure that your felts soak for a minimum of 5 minutes. And I'm just going to start by measuring your head circumference. And so in measuring the head circumference, you want to make sure that your tape measure is right on the glabella, which we have here. Could you hold this for me, please? Thank you so much. And you're going around the fullest part of the head. You want to make sure that your tape measure is not loose and saggy. So sometimes to make sure that I have enough tension, you want to make sure that you put your hand on the tape measure so that it's not sliding up or down. Right. And it is looking like, thank you so much, 59 centimeters. I always like to measure twice. Thank you so much. All right, and then after you use your tape measure, you just want to make sure that you clean and sanitize your tape measure with a wipe so it's ready to go for the next person. So here's our headset. And if you've not already washed your hands, we have some hand sanitizer in the lab. You're going to go ahead and sanitize your hands. Pardon. All right, and so here's our headset just to see what it looks like. So it has... I'm just going to turn it over. Here we have our different locations for our felt sensors, and we have 2 locations that do not record data. They actually have this rubber inset just to increase comfort for the net. Those are not removed after the recording. They stay in the net. You will just simply clean those prior to the next recording. But in between recordings, of course, you're removing all of the sensors. All right, another important thing I just want to mention, it is important that you keep the headset and its associated dongle together, just so that all of the data are transferred correctly. So you don't want to mix the dongle from the other headset with this particular headset, just to keep things organized. All right, okay. Now that our felts have been soaking for a minimum of 5 minutes, we're going to go ahead and insert the felts into the headset. To be clear, your soaking is for a minimum of 5 minutes. If your felts soak for an additional minute or 2 for whatever reason, that would, nothing harmful will stem from that. I have found that it's easiest to remove the felts since you're not at a sink using a pair of tweezers. And so what I normally do is take them out. So here is our headset. I don't start in any particular location, although I guess I could. And then in inserting the felts, you're simply pushing the felt into the holder. And these are brand new, so they're a little stiffer than they would be otherwise. But you can see that in terms of the felt, you're pushing it in. It's probably maybe 1/8 of an inch extending from the electrode holder. And you're just going to keep going. So again, if you find that one of your felts is somewhat dry, you can put that back and allow it to soak longer. These are very firm as new felts. You do want to work as quickly as possible because, of course, once you put the felts in the net, they are drying out at that point. And you can see I'm using a fair amount of pressure to get the felts into each of the holders. So at a minimum, you'll need to prep 16 felts, 14 for your recording electrodes and 2 for your reference electrodes. And so once I finish, I like to make sure that everything is still securely inserted. So I'm just going around and double checking each of these. All right, so now your headset is ready for application. So in applying the headset, there are a few things that you want to do, and you want to make sure that you do them in this particular order. So first of all, for your EMOTIV headset, your headset has a dongle. Your first step will always be to plug in the dongle. So this is a USB extension cable, and it's recommended that you use this. It does tend to improve EEG signal quality if this is further from the computer. So we're going to go ahead and plug this in, and I'm just going to set that over here. And then as soon as you have the dongle plugged in, you're going to go ahead and power on your headset. Now you want to make sure that you have your headset charged in advance. Here is our power button. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the power. And so here the light is white. That is a good sign. If the light is flashing, that would be an indicator that the headset needs to be charged. Okay. So for our participant who's wearing glasses, I just want to make a note about this. So initially, the participant's glasses are off when you put the headset on. And probably the best way to position the glasses, if you assist the participant, you want to guide the glasses over the top of all of the electrodes that are here. So the end of the arm will go over and on the outside of all of this. So let's go ahead and put that on. And then once you have it generally in position, certainly encourage the participant to adjust their glasses so that they feel more comfortable. And you can always readjust the net, or the headset if there's some movement as part of that process. But you want to make sure that participants who are wearing glasses are wearing their glasses during the recording. Okay. So when you go to apply the headset for the participant, one of the things that you want to do is, you can see, first of all, that it says EPOC on the side. You want to make sure that that language is face up, because it would be very easy to put this on upside down in error. So that tends to be helpful. I also find what you'll notice about the headband is that the headband can be in 2 positions. I like to put it on with the headband in the down position. So when you go to position the headset, there aren't very many anchor points that you have to assist you. So if your participant is wearing glasses, you're going to ask them to kindly remove their glasses. Would you mind putting your glasses here on the table?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, wonderful. And then I usually focus on 3 things. So you have your AF3 and 4 electrodes, which are your 2 electrodes in the front toward the center. Those should be 3 finger widths above the glabella, and that is the brow ridge, and you're going to try, here are your 3 finger widths. So they should be approximately this height. Right? Let me do that from the other side, so it's easier to capture. Right? So again, 3 finger widths above the glabella, so about here. The other anchor point that you can use to guide you, you can see that you have your 2 rubber inserts, which are here and here. Right, so these are the 2 locations where you do not have felts. These sit over the mastoids. So this is a second reference location that you could use. We are not using this. So here is your mastoid process behind the ear. You want to make sure that you're kind of looking to get those rubber inserts positioned over the mastoids in the back. But that's really all you have to guide you. So now the recommendation when you apply this is that you start from above. You want to make sure that you pull this out to the side, right? Because otherwise you're not going to actually clear your participant's head. Now, in this case, our participant is slightly above the circumference range for this headset. So the upper range is 58 centimeters, and our participant is at a 59.25, which is slightly above. It's fine. So we're going to just make sure that we have a little extra give. And then when you put this on, again, here are your mastoid electrodes. Use those to guide you, right? And you're just kind of working this down. Again, in the front, you want to make sure that your headset, let's have a look at this, it looks pretty good. You want to make sure that your AF3 and 4 electrodes are approximately, again, 3 finger widths above the glabella. Now, at this point...
And show the mastoids.
Oh,
okay,
yes.
There we go.
Right, so here we have our mastoid. This is the, it's not actually an electrode. This is where you have the rubber insert on this side and also on this side. Now, once you do this, the next thing that you want to do, you'll take a pipette and you're going to do 2 things simultaneously. One, you're going to work your way around and you're going to move hair out of the way. But simultaneously, you want to make sure that your sensors are in the correct position and also that the bottom of the felt is as flush with the scalp as possible. Because depending on the positioning of each electrode and the participant's scalp, you might find that some of the sensors are seated on their side. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just working my way around. I'm going to start on the left side of the headset. Don't forget there is a sensor that is right here. This is by far the hardest sensor to touch up. Not very easy to access, but you want to make sure that that particular sensor also has a good connection with the scalp.
So you're just pushing the hair out of the way a little bit?
Yep, I'm basically just taking my pipette, and if we look at, we use this sensor as an example, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm parting the hair so that the sensor is sitting on the scalp as flush as possible. And I'm just going to keep going. Now, if your participant has really thick hair, this step is probably the most important step to get good EEG quality. So you want to take your time with this. You want to make sure that all of your electrodes are in position and that your hair is out of the way. When you put the headset on, in addition, so right now I feel like I've moved most of the hair out of the way and I've checked my sensors, but you also, I think you want to be very careful just to double check the symmetry of the headset. It's easy to get it on slightly to one side or the other. So here is the solution that you soaked your felts in. You're going to take a little bit of this solution, and for each of these electrodes, you'll notice, and this is a perfect example because it's right here on the top, there's a hole in the top of the electrode, and you're just going to drop in a few additional drops of solution to help keep the sensor wet. You're going to do this for all of your sensors. Sometimes if it seems like there might be some dripping from the headset, it's nice to offer your participant a courtesy paper towel so that if they have any drips, they can easily remove them. So there was a drip there. Let me get my participant a courtesy towel. I'm just going to give you this paper towel in the event there are any drips. Oh, thank you so much. Now, the only electrode that is really difficult to touch up in this way would be your T5 and T6 electrodes, which are right behind here. So I will sometimes, especially if participants have thick hair, I will re-wet those felts before I even put the headset on, just because I know how difficult it is to touch this up. All right. And I think we have all of these. Just double check.
So those electrodes you just do from the side of the
Yes. So for those, if you really needed to reach them, it would be brutal. I think probably your best bet would be you could probably reach down in here this way. Let's also try, I don't know if this is a good idea, but we're going to try it now that the headset's already on. Yeah, so you probably would have more luck accessing that if you put the headband up, because now you can access that sensor slightly. So if this sensor is a problem, when you go to do the contact check, you'd have to put the headband up into its up position, and you can leave it there for the recording. So if you're happy with that, I would just leave it there.
Why did you have this part down to begin with?
I just like it when you're first applying it. I think it's easier to put the headset on, particularly if people, so our current participant does not have long hair, but if participants have longer hair, the recommendation is they have it tied up in a high ponytail. And if you have this up, you're going to be running into that. So it's easier to apply this with the headband down. I also think it gives you one additional anchor or like guide when you're applying this. So your electrodes are kind of on an angle this way, but your headband itself is rather parallel to the ground when you put the headset on. So it's just another guide. Okay, so we're going to segue into the recording itself. So I'm just going to have the participant turn to face the computer. So thank you so much. All right, and here is our EMOTIV launcher icon over here. So it's a black and white icon of a brain. So we're going to go ahead and launch that icon. And so as part of this, we're going to go to apps and EMOTIV Pro Builder. There's a little arrow here on the side. All right, and this will take us to a series of different experiments. And when we are here, we're going to go to subjects. And so you'll see subjects where we've already collected data. We're going to add a new subject using the plus sign here. The very first screen brings you to EEG connectivity. That gives you a reading of sensor connectivity. It looks a lot like this. And if there are sensors that need to be touched up, green is good, yellow is not good, and red is terrible.
But light green, is that okay?
Light green is not great.
But is it okay to go ahead, or?
No, I mean, so generally the starting percentage overall is above 80%. Now that percentage is a calculation. You can see how it just changes in real time.
Yeah. I kind of did a jaw cleanse and it kind of changed.
Which is why, like, this is what they call the EEG gate check. And as part of the EEG gate check, you're looking for this percentage to be above 80%. Now, normally when you first see this screen, I don't think I've ever gone into this screen with it above 80%. Like, so it never starts at the level that you need to be. So you should never be discouraged. I mean, maybe I'd be discouraged if it was all red, but there are some things that you can do to improve this percentage. So the first thing that I do, I encourage the participant, particularly if they're moving around, because our participant has been talking, which is, fine for this particular case, but you want to minimize the amount of dialogue that you have with your participant during this phase, but you want them to sit as still as possible, because sometimes just being patient and sitting still will improve the quality. But if there are sensors like AF3 and AF4 that are consistently red, you're going to touch them up. And so here's my pipette. This is the same pipette that I used to move the participant's hair out of the way. And I'm just going to take a little bit of liquid, and I'm going to start by doing a few things. I'm going to start by touching those up. Now, if you can do it, so generally you're just going to add the liquid through this part, right? So the holes at the top of the sensor, if you can. I start with a few drops. You're not going to see a change immediately, right? So you're just going to apply the liquid. Let me go ahead and touch up AF3. And when you're doing this, you want to try to minimize the disruption to the rest of the net. We'll give it a minute. But you have to give it a little extra time. Sometimes the other thing that I will do, particularly, so in this case, we prepped the net, then we waited to put the headset on. So I could see it being drier than usual, but if for some reason, let's say you had to reposition the headset for one reason or another, and you anticipate that maybe even the felt on the bottom is very dry, you can definitely try to lift the sensor and apply the liquid directly to the felt as it'll be touching the scalp. That can be helpful. So I try a combination of things. And with this, you want to work to get this working as effectively as possible. Sorry, I'm just going to come around here to the back. Now, our reference electrodes, which you can see they're marked with the dots, those are P3 and P4. If those were yellow or red, you would start by touching those up. But in this case, those seem to be good. It seems to be more our frontal electrodes that are problematic. F3 was the electrode that I lifted for my felt application demo, so I could see why that's problematic. And let me try to touch up AF4 again if I can. And you may find like maybe there's some hair in the way underneath, so you could try to move that hair out of the way if you find that that could still be a problem as well. All right, and we're just going to wait. And again, you're going to ask your participant to sit as still as possible. Great. So once you pass the EEG gait check, and that should be a percentage of 80% or higher, you're going to go ahead and click on proceed, and it's going to bring you into the experiment. So when you go into the experiment, the very first screen is a sound check, and you can go ahead and play the tone. You want to make sure that it's loud enough, but not too loud for the participant. How is that tone?
Yep.
Oh, good. Great.
What does that do? What's that for?
So the tone is to help participants transition from eyes closed to eyes open blocks.
Oh, okay.
It just lets them know that that's happening. And it also helps the experimenter, right, to keep on track of the experiment itself. So once you've played the tone and you're satisfied, you can click the proceed button here at the bottom, and it's going to bring you into the study. And you will read the instructions aloud to the participant. So today we'll record your brain activity while you are in a resting state. During a resting state, you are awake and alert, but are not asked to complete a specific task. We will record your brain activity for 12 minutes. During the recording, we will alternate between recording your brain activity for 1 minute with your eyes open and for 1 minute with your eyes closed. A tone will sound to let you know that we are moving from eyes open to eyes closed and from eyes closed to eyes open. Please sit as still as possible and try to remain awake and alert. Okay. So as the experimenter, you're using the next button here at the bottom to advance this. So this is the start of the recording. And during the recording, you just want to monitor your participant. You want to make sure that they are as awake and alert as possible. So let's allow this to run through the first block so we can see what the break is like and the arousal rating. And then during the recording itself, I would not stand here as the experimenter. I try to be behind the participant as much as possible so that I'm out of view, but still close enough that I can monitor the participant's behavior, just ensuring that they're complying with the task instructions and that they're maintaining sufficient arousal, that they're not falling asleep. We're going to go ahead and remove the headset. So in this particular case, I just closed the tab to exit the session early. But typically when you run through the entire protocol, the final screen is a thank you screen with a next button at the bottom to finish, and you simply click next. And that will bring you back to your subject screen. Okay. So we're going to ask our participant to remove their glasses. So if you put your thank you so much. And to remove the headset, you're really just going to do the opposite of what you did in its application. You want to make sure, again, our participant has a slightly larger head circumference for this particular headset. So we're going to take care when we take this off, we're going to try to expand it a little bit, and we're just going to lift the headset up. And you're going to take care to make sure that the participant's hair is not caught in the net, but the headset looks pretty good. Okay, and you can go ahead and place your glasses. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
So to clean the headset, I'm just going to come back over here where I was working before. You're going to start by turning the headset off. Okay, so again, I've used the power button on the side. We see that the light is off. To do your cleaning, you're going to take your clean and unused container and you're going to remove all of the felts. Remember that you're removing the felts. You are not, however, removing the rubber posts that support the mastoids. Those stay in. So you're removing the 16 felts. To get these out, I sort of just grab onto them a little bit with my nails and move them side to side slightly. Some are harder to free than others. And these are particularly challenging given that they're new. So we will just keep at it. And you just want to take your time. You're just working around the net.